Alrighty, y'all, so here's the next one that I have that I'm going to try and get fixed. Looks like it's going to be a pretty easy one. It looks like the mower is almost new, or it's barely been used. I mean, if you look at the tread on the front tires here for the self-propel, it was taken care of or used very sparingly, because it's around a 2005, it says. So should be a good one here. It is a Murray self-propel front drive push mower. Again, about 11 or 12 years old, and the oil is very clean and it is full. So again, this thing may have not been used much at all. It's got the 7-position adjustable wheels on it. Looks like it was ran or has old gas in it, because it's all in the tank. I'll have to clean out the tank. I'm pretty sure this one might just need a carburetor cleaning, considering the way that tank looks. And I don't think there's an air filter in it, so I'll have to put an air filter in it as well. I'm not seeing one. Yeah, so no air filter. But pretty sure I'll have to take the carburetor off and clean out the gas tank. Not a big deal. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Clean it up. This thing will look very nice. Probably $120 or so for this thing. As long as everything works on it. All the cables look good, and the drive engages like it's supposed to, and then you can see it locks the wheels whenever I try and move it. So it's working well. Let me break into this. First off, I just got to take this screw's missing, so I'll take this screw off here, take this cover off, get under here where you have your three bolts to take the gas tank off. I'll take that off, and then we'll kind of work with the carburetor also. So let's get to work. So I got the carb cover off for the air filter housing. It's 3 5/16 inch bolts, 2 right there, and then 1 right here where my thumb is. Just have to make sure your gasket comes off as well. It looks like this gasket's almost new. Somebody's been in this before, I can tell, because one of the screws is a little bit, or one of the bolts is a little bit different. That came off of the engine cover. So the next step is, in order to take the carburetor off, grabbing a pair of pliers, going to pull the fuel line off there, pull the clamp off, and then pull the fuel line itself off here. And there's still some gas left in the tank, and I don't know if you can see how old it looks, but we'll just kind of let that run out. It's not much, so it's not going to really hurt anything. But yeah, it was old gas, and I got to clean out the tank anyways, and I'll wash this mower off. So the next step is find your 3/8 inch socket, take the carburetor off here. And so we'll take this off. just keeping tabs on all the bolts and putting them in that box over there. That spring is pretty gummed up, but it's still working. Alright, so it comes right on off there. You have your O-ring, it stayed on. Stayed on where the carburetor connects there. We took it off. And now we're going to get inside it with the 1/2" nut here, or a 1/2" bolt. Find a socket and you can just see the gas coming out of it. It is just nasty. So we'll break it open and we'll see what we have in here. So I thought it was going to be a little worse than it is, but it's really not too bad at all. Pretty clean bowl here. And I don't know if you can see what the fuel was that came out of it. Very orangish looking. But it does look like the main jet's a little clogged, so we'll throw some wire into that and clean that out. And kind of make sure all the ports and the jets and all that stuff in the carburetor are good too. You can use compressed air. You just have to be really careful not to blow out any of the seals and gaskets though, and douse it with a little carb cleaner and we'll be good to go. So everything's cleaned up and blown out. We're looking pretty good now. Pretty clean. So now I'll put the bowl back on. Put the bowl back on, put the nut back on, put it back on to the using the reverse procedure, just putting it back onto the engine there. We'll clean out the gas tank next. So all the rest of the fuel is drained out, whatever dirty fuel that was. Looking in there, I mean, it's a little dirty. I don't think I'm gonna worry about taking off the gas tank. I'm just gonna wash it off, rinse it out with a hose and let it drain out and dry out for a few minutes. But just kind of run some water through it there. You can see the kind of the dirt and stuff coming out of it now. So let that stuff wash out of it and let it dry out. And I'll put the air filter cover back on here, put the gas line back on, and put it all back together. Hopefully we'll be hearing this thing run here pretty shortly. So got it all back together, found a screw that would fit the one that was missing over here. The gas tank is almost dry. Put 3 5/16 inch bolts back on, along with the 2 3/8 inch that attach the carburetor. You got to make sure that your O-ring that y'all saw earlier is on there still. Got a new air filter here. Gonna screw this air filter back in here, or the air filter housing, and fill it up with gas and give this thing a test run. I have a pretty high confidence in this one. I'm just surprised that the that the carburetor wasn't as gummed up as I thought it was going to be. So I'll screw this back on and we'll give it a shot. So put everything together, got gas in it. Like I said, I think I've got pretty high confidence that this thing will start. And as soon as I say it, it won't. But we'll set this down and give it a shot here. So the primer bulb isn't priming right now, it's just sucking some air. So I'm going to have to work on that gasket. You should see it coming out of that top piece on the carburetor there, and as you can see there's nothing coming through there, even after I put a new primer bulb on it. So I'll have to figure that out, but it will start and run on starting fluid, so I'm going to let it run for a little bit and try and, you know, purge all the water out of the system that may be left, as well as kind of flush out everything and just let everything run. It is smoking a little bit, but we'll put starter fluid in it and give this thing a start. It does run good, it's smooth and it's quiet, and the self-propel works on it. You can see just a light haze of smoke. It's just got some to burn off there, but it'll be a good mower once I get the primer fixed on it. Shouldn't be too difficult to do that, but that is what'll be coming up next here. So it was a little bit of a struggle, but I finally got this thing. I keep a couple of these that are in okay shape around. So what I did is I put a second gasket on it. So doubled them up, and then I also put a little bit of sealant on it. I don't have it out here, but I'll show you what I put on it. It's Permatex Ultra Black, and I sealed it around the bottom where the mower, or where the primer bulb comes. So there's, when you take the cover off, you see like a little inlet that runs from the primer bulb down around the bottom of the gasket up to about where this bolt is, that pushes gas into a hole that's on the carburetor. And so now what I've done is I'm able to prime it. I'll show you, and you'll see it come out of that top hole right there where my finger is. I've got enough gas in it. You can see it just barely coming out, but that's exactly what it needs to be to do to prime the mower. So I've got that working. Feel pretty confident now. So I'm going to go ahead and sharpen the blade and clean it up, take pictures of it, and let it run. And so I will, let me show you all under the deck real quick. It looks really good. It's got this special two-step type blade on it, almost like a double blade. So I'm sure the mower will cut pretty good once I sharpen the blade up, which is what I'm gonna do next. So now it's all clean. Everything should be good to go since I got the primer bulb working again. 5.5 horsepower Quantum. So these are pretty desirable engines to have on push mowers. But just tidied up the cables a little bit with the zip tie there. So this thing should start this time. I'm going to sit this down and show you everything's good. So I basically eliminated all variables for this carburetor. Since I, for the life of me, can't get it to prime, I've tried to smooth this out some. I've cleaned out all the ports and the holes and stuff, and changed out the primer bulb, changed out this piece right here that connects the air filter to the carburetor, put a new gasket on it, and I still cannot get it to prime. So I figured that to save me all the time and frustration of trying to get this thing to work, that it was worth the investment of $10 to just get a new carburetor for it, since this is going to be $100 mower, maybe $120 mower, depending on demand right now, what I can get for it. I mean, it's been pretty rainy here and the grass has been growing. I've just come back from a week away, so I'm sure stuff is going to sell probably pretty well on into at least the end of June. So I've already got the air filter cover off, as y'all saw, the 3 5/16 inch bolts. And clamp the gas line, take it off that carburetor. You got your 3/8 inch bolts holding the carburetor on. Disconnect it from the linkage as you take it off, and then do the reverse procedure when you take it back on. So that's what I'm going to do. And as you can see, it's already clean. Got a little bit of dirt on it from just moving it around and stuff. So I'll put the carburetor on it. We'll give it a final look and start. So the new carburetor is on. Put some gas in it. Put a new air filter on it also. And I mean, this thing ran good. Even though the other carburetor, I couldn't get it to prime any. When I just sprayed a shot of start fluid in it, it always ran great. So now hopefully it is priming with the new carburetor, and we will try to get this thing started. So y'all saw that I couldn't get it going to start with. Sometimes when you put a new carburetor on for the first time, it may be like the needle might be stuck or something on it. So what I did is I hit the mower deck up and down like that a couple of times. I was able to unseat the carburetor and allow gas to flow into it, and then the primer bulb started working. Primed it 3 or 4 times, came back here, pulled it back, and it's running good. So as you can see, the self-propel works. I mean, with the used mower, this thing isn't bad. Obviously, nothing's ever going to be perfect when you buy it on the used market, let alone if you buy it on the new, even new out of the box. But this was definitely a nice one. Like I said, it'll probably bring probably bring around $100. It might bring 120 if I get lucky. But yeah, I'm gonna let it run for a few minutes. So this is the second of 3 I had to put a carburetor. Ended up putting a carburetor on just for purposes of peace of mind, and so that I can help ensure that it's good for whoever buys it from me. And everything's been going good so far. I mean, we're getting close to 70 mowers. I've had one come back where the needle came unseated from the float, and I just blew some compressed air in the carburetor, reseated it. He's been on his way for a few weeks now, haven't heard back. And then I had that Murray return earlier in the year. I haven't gotten any calls back or anything like that apart from that, so everything's going well still. And y'all keep watching the videos and commenting and giving feedback and all that good stuff, so I'll keep making them for us. But yeah, got another good one here. Good Murray. Self-propel. Work good for somebody. Got a John Deere one coming up here pretty soon also that I've just got to put a carburetor on. So in the meantime, thank y'all for watching.